Begins by introducing us to Scarlett L. Vandemion, the daughter of Duke Vandemion and fiancé to Kyle von Peristan, the second prince of the Kingdom of Peristan. In the middle of a ball, Kyle suddenly decides to call off their engagement and announces that Tereneza Hawkins of the Hawkins barony will be his future wife in her place. Everyone in the room applauds the announcement of the new engagement, and Tereneza promises to fall deeper in love with the prince each day. Kyle praises how charming and devoted she is, saying that she's completely unlike the emotionless Claude over there. He mentions that the 17 years he spent playing fiancé to a dull and stupid woman like Scarlett has been the one blemish on his otherwise spectacular life. Scarlett remains calm and composed at all times, reminding him that their engagement was arranged by the royal family and the ducal house of Vandemion before they were even born. However, as if things couldn't get any worse, Kyle then accuses her of a crime she never committed to terminate the engagement. He mentions that Tereneza told him everything about how Scarlett grew jealous of his blossoming affection for her and began to bully her so spitefully at the academy. Scarlett clarifies that she has no memory of that, and she doesn't recall even meeting Tereneza before this day. The prince takes this as an offense, assuming that Tereneza barely existed to her because she wasn't in the special curriculum like her. Scarlett remains silent at this, so Kyle decides to announce her crimes, saying that she defaced Tereneza's notebooks, spread nasty rumors about her, and even pushed her down the stairs. Tired of his lies, Scarlett decides that she's heard enough, so she tells him that she'll allow him to make his own judgments and accept the termination of their engagement. Kyle isn't surprised at all by her indifference, saying that in stories and plays, a woman like her would typically be called the villainess. Tereneza makes fun of her, but knowing that she's seen as a villainess, Scarlett decides to stop restraining herself. That's why she asks Kyle for one final thing before she leaves, and though he completely refuses to please her, Tereneza makes him change his mind, reminding him that it's her last request. He expects her to ask for money, jewelry, or anything else, but to his surprise, Scarlett doesn't say anything and simply approaches them calmly. Once in front of them, she turns her hand into a fist and launches at Tereneza to punch her in the face with no restraints. Before seeing the outcome of this, it is explained why Scarlett has lost control of her emotions. It's clear that she feels a great deal of rage against Tereneza and that fool of a prince, but to fully convey the extent of that rage, it's necessary to look back to the past. Ever since she was a child, there was nothing she loved more than clobbering others. Her brother, Leonardo El Vandemion, scolds her for this one day, but Scarlett tells him that the violence she inflicts is far from indiscriminate, and she has a reason for what she does. She claims that she does it for the greater good, but Leonardo doesn't believe this at all, since he saw her beaming while being covered in a little boy's blood she just had hit. He reminds her that she'll have her official coming out at next week's ball, so she needs to control her temper and act like a lady. Scarlett decides to listen to him, so the next week during the ball, she maintains her best behavior. There, she meets Kyle for the first time, but it's clear that he doesn't like her from the very beginning. He accuses her of being stupid and tells her that she'll work for him from now on. Of course, Scarlett wasn't happy about this, and that's how she met the second prince of the realm and her fiancé. Soon after that, Kyle began to bully her in the pettiest ways imaginable, and there was nothing she could do about it. She tried telling her father, but he only apologized and said that the royal family arranged the engagement, so he's powerless to end it. Having no other choice, Scarlett endured and endured to the furthest limits of her patience. Then, sometime later, she turned 15 and began attending the Royal Academy for Nobles. There, she's known as the Icy Rose, the universally talented pride of the special curriculum. Despite this, Kyle approaches her one day in front of everyone to say that Duke Vandemion ordered her to support him around school, which means she's now his slave. By this time, Scarlett had already developed a backbone of steel, which left her unfazed by any treatment Prince Kyle dealt out. That day at lunch break, Kyle bursts into her classroom screaming that she's supposed to be buying lunch for him. Scarlett responds in a monotone way, apologizing and saying that she'll do it right away. Of course, Kyle isn't satisfied by this apology, so he decides that she needs punishment. Her friends try to intervene, but he simply stops them with a threatening gaze, and Scarlett asks them not to worry about her. Kyle takes Scarlett outside to complain about her managing to be on the special curriculum while he was dropped to common. She quickly understands why he's in a particularly bad mood today, and Kyle asks her to enjoy her sense of superiority while it lasts. He suddenly pulls a knife out of his coat, saying that he never liked that silver hair of hers, so he'll cut it off and take it back to his fellows in the common curriculum. Scarlett asks him to refrain, warning him that she'd be forced to tell her father, and he could nullify their engagement. Kyle exclaims that Duke Vandemion is a dog who does whatever his father tells him. Their engagement is on until he says otherwise, so she's going to spend her whole life as his slave. Scarlett's hand turns into a fist as she realizes that this is not something she can quietly endure. Before she can do anything, Kyle's older brother, the first prince, Julius von Palestan, stops their lovers quarreling. He gets down from a tree and tells Kyle that diversions like this are why he was dropped to the common curriculum. Julius ignores Kyle's dagger and approaches Scarlett, apologizing for the offense his brother caused her. She quickly hides her fists and dismisses it, saying that this is typical behavior for him. Julius is a little surprised to hear this, since he has heard about his little brother engaging in childish bullying of his fiancée, but he hopes that threatening her with a dagger isn't a daily occurrence. Feeling cornered, Kyle denies everything and asks asks his assistant Sigurd to get Julius out of there. However, Sigurd reminds him that he can't do that since Julius is a member of the royal family as he is, so he cannot defy him even if it's an order. Unable to do anything, Kyle decides to run away, feeling angrier than ever, so Scarlet knows that he'll come back tomorrow with worse. She still thanks Julius for his aid, though she knows that he must have realized she was about to hit Kyle. Julius tells her that he was just reading on top of a tree, since when he does it in the classroom, he tends to get swarmed by obnoxious sycophants. Here it is explained that the kingdom of Palestine has two princes. The first prince, Julius, is the son of the queen and current heir to the throne, but his tolerance for underhanded behavior has led to a faction of wicked nobles who view him as a threat to their power, attempting to raise Kyle, the foolish second prince, to the throne. This has led to daily clashes at the academy between their factions, and Scarlet prefers not to get involved. Julius suddenly tells her that he wouldn't mind spending more time in the classroom now that he's found something much more interesting than a book. It's clear that he's referring to her, but Scarlet's only answer is to glare at him, clearly not amused. Soon after that, the aptitude test results come out, and everyone is surprised to see Julius got the first place. Scarlet has always placed first in the 3 major subjects, but he got perfect scores in every subject. In the swordsmanship and magic exams, she's gotten as high as 99s, but never received a perfect score. Even after besting the instructors, she was told her form was poor, or that the construction of her magic circles was sloppy, things fully up to the instructor's discretion. Scarlet is now bitter that Julius earned the perfect scores that she was always denied. Still, when she sees him, she calmly congratulates him on his top placement. However, her calm and aloof demeanor cracks slightly when he teases her, saying that placing first with perfect scores was easier than he expected. Scarlet immediately takes that as a challenge, so she spends the following days training, trying to perfect her knowledge and skills to pay back 10 times over whatever he does to her. Sometime after that, she manages to score first on the aptitude test, so Julius pats her head and congratulates her, saying that he enjoyed watching her secret training after class. Her good mood disappears in less than a second, and some people in her class start thinking that they have that kind of relationship. Even her friends assume that Julius held back this time because he wanted to see her happy, and that rumor starts spreading around the school. Scarlet is not happy about this, but she now knows how Julius operates, so she decides to never rise to his provocations again. The next day, Julius approaches her casually several times, but Scarlet completely ignores him. On her way back home after school, she can't take it anymore and asks him why he's been following her. Julius assures her it's just a coincidence, but this just pisses her off even more, because it's clear that he's doing it on purpose. Seeing her expression, he can't help but laugh, saying that he truly enjoys the ever-changing faces of the icy rose. Even though she may think she's putting on a stony visage, watching her has made it clear that every single thing she's feeling shows on her face. Scarlet is a little surprised by this, because she thought her facial muscles died after she decided to endure Prince Kyle's treatment. They decide to chat a little as they walk, and Scarlet realizes that she hasn't seen Kyle in a while, which makes her think that the reason Julius keeps pestering her is that he's trying to keep Kyle away. Seeing her expression, Julius tells her that her feelings are showing again. He mentions how beautiful her silver hair is, saying that he could not bear losing it to a fool's foolish act. Julius confesses that over the course of his life so far, she is the most interesting and peculiar animal he's seen. Scarlet's expression falls immediately, but Julius continues lightheartedly talking about how rare it is to come across a specimen so worthy of observation. He even shows her his wildlife observation notebook and asks her if she'd like to be engaged to him instead of Kyle. Of course, Scarlet instantly declines his offer with a deadpan expression. These events resulted in such a buildup of anger and stress, so she spent ages dreaming of slugging those two princes. And now, returning to the present time, thanks to the spark provided by Terraneza, she can at last unleash the explosion. Her fist connects with Terraneza's face in a brutal blow, taking her down in a second. Kyle can only observe the scene, completely horrified, and Scarlet's threatening gaze keeps him from trying anything stupid. She tells him that she's also furious with his supporters who are gathered here, since all this time, as a fiancé to a royal, she's endured the ridiculous treatment of Kyle and his evil noble flunkies. Then they supported his absurd cancellation of their engagement and rendered her years of suffering meaningless. That's why Scarlet decides right then that she's now free to kick their asses. She uses magic to put the guards down into a slumber, making it clear that her power is off the charts. Soon enough, Scarlet unleashes her rage, giving all those nobles a beatdown they'll never forget. As she beats everyone up, some nobles start recognizing her, realizing that the other name she's known by is the Mad Dog Noblewoman. In just a few minutes, Scarlet is already done, and despite the blood on her face, she mentions that it's been a lovely night. Finally, she approaches Kyle with a fist covered in blood, and though her brother bursts into the room trying to stop her, Scarlet gives the prince the final blow, making him crash against the wall. Julius walks in, laughing at the scene, and Scarlet is completely satisfied now, saying that she feels a lot better. Her brother Leo is horrified by what she's done, but Julius isn't fazed at all, since he inquired about the situation when he saw the nobles fleeing. Scarlet explains that they committed wrongdoings of which she wouldn't dare to speak. Then, rather than show any trace of remorse, they continued to act in so audacious a manner that she was forced to punish them on the spot. Julius asks her to explain more to the point, so Scarlet directly tells tells him that they pissed her off, so she punched their teeth in. The prince can only laugh about this, while Leo is more horrified and concerned about the whole situation. Julius is just happy that she showed her true colors at last, because since the day they first met, he's been wondering when she might unleash those fists of hers. The merciless thrashing she gave those fools was probably quite a sight to see, so it was a little unkind that she did it when he wasn't there. Leo continues worrying about their family's reputation spiraling down the drain again, but Julius tries to reassure him, saying that Scarlet won't be charged for this. While they speak, Scarlet suddenly feels like their voices are growing distant, and before she knows it, she falls unconscious in a second. Sometime after that, Scarlet can hear the sound of a bell in her sleep, and she knows that it's the bell of the Church of Cronoa, god of time. Just then, she understands that she must have used too much of Cronoa's power. Once her eyes open, the first thing she sees is a boy in a maid outfit holding a dagger to kill her. Scarlet simply punches his face, saying that it's dangerous to point knives at people. That blow embeds him into the wall, and Leo rushes into the room after hearing it, completely horrified to see that this is the first thing she does after 3 days unconscious. Not even the doctor could find out what was wrong, and he thought she would never wake up again. Scarlet apologizes for making him worry, saying that she shouldn't have been so reckless. Now that she's finally awake, Julius decides to have a word with her, informing her that the royal family has finalized the termination of her engagement, and her father has also given his assent. Kyle has been disinherited for the trouble he caused, because rumors have been circulating for some time about illegal ownership and trading of slaves in the Second Prince's faction. This will provide an opportunity to crack down on all of them. Julius tells Scarlet that she won't be punished, because the royal family considers her indispensable. However, she'll likely remain single until domestic matters settle, and that will mean delaying her wedded bliss for a time. The bright side to this is that she's gained something priceless in exchange. It seems rumors of her deeds have gotten around the city, and people now know her as the champion who sent a horde of evil, self-interested nobles to prison with just her fists. As she stood alone, covered in blood, beautiful and terrible, they've given her a nickname, the Bloodstained Lady. Leo cries out of frustration, because people seemed about to forget the Mad Dog Noblewoman nickname. Julius simply laughs as always, but mentions that things will be rather busy around here in the coming days. Quite a few of the nobles she exposed were important men in the national government, and there will likely be many replacements. Most pressing of all, the organizer of the fools in the Second Prince's faction, Prime Minister Godwin Bean Carmine. Leo explains that the king and Prince Julius thought there might be someone pulling the strings behind the Second Prince's faction, so they formed a plan to deal with all the corrupt nobles at once. Julius mentions that they formed an organization, the Crown Investigatory Office, to carry it out, and Leo is the head of that organization. Scarlet says that her brother has been acting even more harried of late, so she wants to know if that's due to his time spent with the First Prince. Julius tells her that he resents the implication, because the more likely cause would be all the trouble she started. Leo clarifies that it's actually both of them, but Julius quickly changes the subject, wanting to introduce the one who exposed the Prime Minister's involvement. It's an agent deployed by the CIO to infiltrate the Second Prince's faction, Sigurd Forgrave. Scarlet instantly recognizes him as one of Kyle's assistants in the past, and Sigurd immediately apologizes, saying that his behavior towards her in the past has been utterly unacceptable. Despite how affected he seems, Scarlet knows that it never actually bothered her, but she takes the opportunity to test him. She tells him that she was convinced that he had sworn fealty to Prince Kyle, so it was a most convincing performance, and she had no idea the knights had such talented actors. Sigurd is completely consumed by guilt at this point, so he even allows Scarlet to clobber him, saying that he resigns himself to her fists. She clearly likes his admirable resolution, so she launches a strong fist at him, deceiving him with a feint. Sigurd doesn't dodge her, but he's surprised to see she didn't actually hit him. Scarlet simply touches his face with her fist and tells him that it's all behind them now. After all, he saved her many times as well from other nobles who wanted to mess with her in the past. Sigurd explains that he was merely playing his role as a knight, so he doesn't deserve her mercy. Scarlet questions that, but this gets him a little nervous, and Julius tries to hold his laugh at the whole situation. After the meeting ends, now that Scarlet knows that the Prime Minister was behind it all, she assumes that he was the one who sent the maid who tried to kill her in the morning. She decides to check on him in the shed, but is attacked by a small beast as soon as she steps in. Scarlet just punches it and scolds it for its behavior, saying that she knows he's the beastkin, Nanaka. In a matter of seconds, that beast morphs into the boy from before, and he doesn't hesitate to grab the dagger again. Nanaka tells her that he's going to kill her, because it's the only choice he has. Just then, Scarlet notices the slave crest on his chest, knowing that any who bear it must obey all orders from their assigned master. She then asks him if he would tell her everything he knows about the one who sent him if she were to free him. A little skeptical, Nanaka dares her to try if she can, saying that if she succeeds, he'll tell her anything she wants to know. Much to his surprise, Scarlet slams him against the floor and uses her magic on him to reverse time. She explains that all people are born favored by one of the world's many gods. Most people go their whole lives never realizing which god favors them, but some do, and it allows them to manifest that god's power, which is known as a blessing. In a matter of seconds, the slave crest on Nanaka's chest disappears, and Scarlet explains that she merely restored his body to how it was before. She used the power of reversal, part of the blessing of Chronoa, god of time. This is the reason the royal family wishes to secure her place in their kingdom, but in practice, it has many limitations, and it burns through her energy quickly, so she'll die if she uses too much too quickly. Her use of acceleration at the ball is what caused her to pass out, but that's supposed to remain a secret. Knowing that Scarlet saved him and released him from slavery, Nanaka decides to keep her secret since Beast can never forget a debt. He also confesses that he was hired by Godwin Bean Carmine because she struck his son, Heine, and ordered him to tear her limb from limb. Heine was one of the many nobles she punched at the ball, but Scarlet doesn't even remember him. That said, Nanaka explains that the reason he originally sent him here wasn't to kill her, but to spy on House Vandemian. He sent spies like him into all kinds of noble houses, exploited their weaknesses, encouraged them to participate in the slave trade and take bribes, and did other stuff to get them on his side. That's how he gets more people to support him, and why no one dares to defy him. Hearing all of that, Scarlet makes up her mind, saying that she'll kick the ass of Lord Godwin. Nanaka tries to stop her, warning her that Godwin's always surrounded by guards, so she should lie low and let her brother and the first prince handle the situation. Scarlet clarifies that that wouldn't be fun for her, so she's determined to beat the tar out of Godwin before he is arrested. Unable to fight her on this, Nanaka explains that Godwin attends a slave auction once a month, and the next one is in a week. He doesn't know where it's held, but he can probably get her in contact with a slave trader, so he wants to go with her. If it means revenge on the man who deceives his kind, enslaves them, and sells them off, then he'll gladly be a traitor. Scarlet changes her mind about going alone, so she accepts taking Nanaka with her to the capital, Granhilda. 3 days later, she and Nanaka walk around the slums, but Scarlet isn't happy to see that Julius has decided to go with them. She asks him if he shouldn't be pursuing his own avenues towards exposing Godwin, but Julius explains that it's merely educational. After he graduates from the academy, he'll be locked up in the palace to learn about kingcraft, so he wanted to see, while he's still free to do so, what life is like in his kingdom. He has no intention of being a figurehead, so if he must rule, he wants to do the best he can to create the perfect kingdom. That's why, if they're going to seek out its dark underbelly, it's crucial that he accompany them. Scarlet asks him for the real reason, so Julius directly tells her that he could never miss out on something so potentially amusing. He happened to overhear their conversation in the cabin, and it set his heart aflutter. Scarlet isn't impressed by this, since she had a feeling that would be it. Just then, a group of bandits approaches them with bad intentions, but Scarlet is more excited than ever, knowing that they're the vicious hoodlums she's heard so much about. Nanaka quickly asks her not to hit them yet, but she tells him that they hardly seem amenable to discussion. Julius laughs at this, but Nanaka ignores him and approaches the bandits, saying that they're looking for a middleman named Junk. Of course, all of them refuse to speak, planning to get their money after beating them up. Before they can do anything to them, Scarlet uses her magic to enhance her physique, seeking to educate them on the taste of her fists, and wanting payment for her lesson. Once again, she uses the blessing of Chronoa, acceleration, and in less than a second, her fist connects with the face of one of the bandits. They all fall one by one to her fists, and she also uses her legs to kick them with great force. Scarlet gracefully beats them up without effort, so they bandits quickly recognize her by another nickname, the Lady of Beatings, Scarlet. Julius can't hold his laugh at this, and the last man standing begs for mercy, but Scarlet tells him that if he intends to trample on others, then he should be prepared to be trampled on in return. Before she can hit him, the man desperately tells her the information she wants, confessing that Junk is hiding out in a bar just past here. Scarlet smiles and thanks him kindly for the information, but she still hits him anyway, knocking him out in a second. Julius is clearly amused after seeing all of this, but he asks them to let him speak to Junk, since he might recognize Nanaka, so it's best if he goes alone. The three of them go to the bar the bandit mentioned, but Scarlet and Nanaka wait outside. After just a few minutes, Julius comes out of the place, having the name and location of the slave merchant after just scaring him a little with an obvious lie. The next step is to find out how they will infiltrate the slave auction, and Nanaka tells them that he's got some ideas about that. In no time, Scarlet and Nanaka meet with Lord Zathering, and she tells him a whole made-up story saying that she's seeking a rare slave of some kind. Zathering recognizes she wants a slave so badly as to go behind her parents' backs, but he says that it's below the dignity of such a fine noble lady to have dealings with a reprobate like Junk. Scarlet explains that she had no other options, and asks him what his relationship to the middleman, Junk, is. Zathering clarifies that he would hardly call it a relationship, since he simply signed a contract with him to bring him any potentially valuable slaves that end up in the slums. The most valuables are elves, dwarves, avians, demons, and that beastkin she brought is also a fine piece of merchandise as well. Scarlet asks him how he knew Nanaka was a beastkin, and the man tells her it's quite obvious from his appearance. Besides, he would expect the kind of person who would come to him directly to purchase slaves to bring a rare specimen of their own. Zathering laughs loudly as he says that Nanaka is a prize piece indeed, treating him as simple merchandise. Scarlet's hand instinctively turns into a fist with the sound of his disgusting laugh, but Nanaka quietly asks her to refrain. Once he's done laughing, Zathering asks her what kind of slave she's seeking, so Scarlet mentions that she heard word of a slave auction happening in the capital very soon, so she wants to attend. Zathering mulls over it for a bit, and explains that she'll need to undergo a review to attend the auction. She'll need to reveal her status and enact at least 6 slave transactions, so it would likely take about half a year. Scarlet tells him that she will pay whatever it takes, but Zathering clarifies that he doesn't need her money. However, if she's willing to offer him that fine beastkin slave of hers, he could take her to the auction as the daughter of a distant relative. Scarlet remains silent for a moment, but her serious expression slowly turns into a smile as she accepts the offer. After sealing the deal, both Scarlet and Nanaka head out of the building. She still can't believe that, here at the center of the city that is home to important members of court, the forbidden possession and purchase of slaves is conducted so brazenly. Fortunately, the plan was a success, and Zathering did exactly as Nanaka predicted. Nanaka mentions that he was more surprised to know that there are some things she doesn't resolve by punching. Scarlet is not happy at all about that comment, so Nanaka quickly clarifies that it was a joke. That aside, as they walk, he mentions that the auction is 3 nights from now, and Scarlet asks him if he's certain of his decision. After all, even though she can clear up his slave brand after the deed is done, she can't guarantee his safety in the meantime. Nanaka tells her that Zathering made it sound like he'd put him up for auction, so he doesn't think that he'd let anyone hurt him before then. He's partly doing it for the mission, but he also wants to do this to make up for trying to kill her. Nanaka suddenly yawns, and Scarlet remembers that beastkin are typically nocturnal. Just after she says that, Nanaka finally turns back into his beast form and passes out in her arms. Scarlet picks up his things and decides to return to the inn they're staying at to rest. Julius is already there waiting for them, and when Scarlet tells him that everything went well, he also mentions he's surprised she managed to resolve it without punching. Scarlet quickly gets irritated, but Julius ignores that and says that he wishes he could have seen such a rare sight for himself. Unfortunately, the prince of the realm can't simply go and buy slaves, so he had to stay in the inn. Scarlet carefully places Nanaka in the bed and heads out, saying that she wants to get some fresh air. Julius mentions that that's a coincidence, since he was hoping to step out himself as well. Scarlet walks through the lively market and sees right through Julius's lie, so she asks him how long he intends to follow her. He simply says that he has business down this street, but his lies are quick to irritate her. One of the vendors speaks to Scarlet and tells her that he's selling delicious apple pie, and since she's so pretty, he'll give her an apple for free if she buys a slice. Before she can say anything, Julius takes the opportunity to buy 2, asking for 2 free apples. After that, Julius shamelessly uses Scarlet as a deal magnet and buys different things in the market, including a mithril necklace and some other stuff. Tired of his antics, Scarlet kindly asks him if he still has business down this street, but Julius clarifies that he made that up and she was really innocent for believing him. Scarlet immediately punches a wall, imagining it's his face, but this only makes him laugh. She decides to return to the inn, but just as she turns around, Julius puts the apple pie into her mouth. Scarlet freezes as the flavor of apples and honey fill every corner of her mouth, and she instantly enters a state of bliss. Julius smiles as she eats the apple pie and apologizes for going a bit overboard. Scarlet quickly snaps out of it and clarifies that he can't buy her favor back so easily. Before she can finish her sentence, Julius also offers her his slice of apple pie, and with that, he manages to be in her good graces once more. Scarlet sits on a bench with him after finishing her pie, and mentions that he seems quite familiar with this city. Julius tells her that he used to slip away from the academy to look around, so he knows the city very well. He asks her what she thinks of his kingdom's prized merchant's quarter, and Scarlet tells him that when Prince Kyle used to send her out to buy him lunch, she never had time to look around. She now can see that it is quite a lively place, so she's enjoyed her time here. Julius is glad to hear that, and lets her know that every time he came out here, he thought about how he'd like her to try that apple pie he gave her. Scarlet stares at him and quietly wonders if he was hoping to show her around the merchant's quarter. If he had simply admitted that, she probably wouldn't have been so unkind, but he's truly a contrarian. Julius suddenly mentions that he hates feeling bored, and when he was a child, the only things that caught his interest were twisted and ugly things. As first prince, he was surrounded by fools, trying to curry his favor and get things from him. Julius remembers the first time he met Scarlet, just after Kyle had pulled her hair at the ball. He approached her to say that she didn't have to suffer in silence if the second prince frightened her, but to his surprise, Scarlet just smiled with a dark expression, saying that he made a really funny joke. Julius's eyes glint as he remembers that first encounter, and says that he finds most things in this world boring, so he would like at least the small corner of the world that he inhabits to be filled with things that interest him. He suddenly leans towards Scarlet and tells her that right now, the most interesting thing to him is her. Scarlet freezes when Julius kisses her cheek, and he admits that what he feels is not the same as traditional romantic love, but if he can say one thing, it's that she is dear to him, more dear than anything else in this world. After returning to the inn that day, Scarlet lies in bed and still thinks about that kiss again. She wonders if that was just another way for him to tease her, but deep down, she isn't so sure. The next day, Scarlet meets with Zathering to give him her house's slave, as promised. In exchange, she asks that he honors their agreement. Zathering clarifies that before he agrees to anything, he wants to confirm that her slave is truly a beastkin. It's not without precedent for a wicked person to dress their slave up as a rare breed to fetch a higher price. Scarlet can't believe he's the one talking about wicked, but she saves her words and asks Nanaka to turn into his beast form. He follows her orders, and the man is pleased to see he truly is a beastkin, knowing that he'll be the crown jewel of the auction. Suddenly, a big man named Donovan bursts into the office and sees Scarlet, so he asks Zathering if she's the slave they're taking in today. Zathering clarifies that the lady is actually actually a customer, and in the meantime, Scarlet stares at the man, noticing he's half human and half magibeast, a lycanthrope. Zathering apologizes for his behavior, saying that Donovan is quite an ill-tempered brute, even for a slave. Nanaka growls at the man, and Donovan assumes that he's the slave he was looking for. Zathering confirms and asks him to be cautious in how he handles him, but Donovan dismisses his warning, saying that beastkin are known for their quick regeneration. He puts a collar and leash on Nanaka, harshly pulling on it to make him move. However, when Nanaka resists, Donovan gets furious and tries to hit him with a sharp whip. Scarlet immediately grabs the end of the whip to stop him and tells Zathering that his pet needs a bit more discipline. If he finds it too stupid to learn, she could administer punishment in his stead. Donovan gets enraged, telling her that he'll tear her to pieces, so Zathering asks her not to provoke him, because that man is a former A-rank adventurer. She would have to be on the level of a knight captain to handle a monster like him, so it's best if she refrains from saying something she shouldn't. Scarlet doesn't see the issue, so Zathering clarifies he's just warning her for her own safety. Donovan says that it's already too late for that, and he won't let that slide just because she's a woman or a customer. He suddenly approaches her with the whip, but realizes that he can't even use it because Scarlet is still holding onto it. Donovan pulls with all his strength, but Scarlet doesn't move, holding onto the whip like it's nothing. Zathering, completely clueless, tells Donovan that this is no time for a comedy routine. Donovan clarifies that he's pulling as hard as he can, so he doesn't know how she's doing it. Scarlet calmly asks if Donovan will be put up for auction as well, and Zathering tells her that he's just his personal bodyguard and trainer for the other slaves. Once this is confirmed, she smiles and gladly says that she won't have to hesitate to kick his ass. Zathering is taken off guard by her words, but before he can properly react, Scarlet pulls on the whip and punches Donovan's guts, immediately sending him flying out the window with a single blow. Zathering is terrified after witnessing the scene, but Scarlet smiles and tells him that her discipline is complete. After that, she approaches Nanaka to remove the collar, asking him if Donovan hurt him. Seeing some blood on his neck, Scarlet decides to use her magic to heal his wounds. Once this is done, she gently hugs Nanaka and tells him that she'll be back for him soon, so he just has to bear it for this short while. Nanaka agrees, so Scarlet speaks to Zathering, wanting to address the payment for the broken window. Still completely terrified, Zathering nervously tells her that there's no need for that. He forces a smile and assures her that he's actually grateful, since he always struggles to discipline Donovan properly. Zathering promises to do no more harm to her precious merchandise and decides to discuss where they'll meet up on the day of the auction. Scarlet soon returns to the inn after that, but she recognizes a carriage on the street. When the door opens, Leo comes out of the carriage, clearly not happy and wanting to hear the whole story once they're back at the palace. Julius is waiting inside the carriage, so Scarlet now knows who to blame. Having no other choice, she heads back to the palace with them, and Leo scolds them both for being so reckless. Julius asks him to relax since they learned the location of the slave auction. Despite this, Leo clarifies that they put themselves at risk to get it, and they surely know how much they mean to this kingdom. Scarlet agrees with him and tells Julius that he should take this as a lesson. Leo gets a little irritated since he was scolding her as well, and she's acting like it has nothing to do with her. He reminds her that she's his precious little sister, so he doesn't want to see her throw herself into danger anymore. After all, despite the terrible nicknames she's earned, she's still an innocent maid of 17. Leaving that aside, Julius asks him how his investigation is going, and Leo informs him that it seems Godwin himself is the organizer of this auction. Scarlet mentions that the auction will be 2 nights from now, and this makes her brother panic. Leo says that they need to prepare at once, so he'll write up an outline, pick out personnel, choose their placement, and other things. While he worries about all that, Scarlet stares at Julius, and he quickly notices it, so he asks her if she wants more. This clearly takes her off guard, but he clarifies that he doesn't have apple pie today. Scarlet instantly gets angry, since she's not that much of a glutton. Without wasting any more time, Leo decides to begin planning for the night of the slave auction, and tells Scarlet that she has to return home. She immediately refuses, full of determination, and explains that from the time her engagement to Prince Kyle was cancelled to now she's been through many things. She has stopped holding herself back and became the mad dog noblewoman once more, beating up more men than she could easily count. Leo tries to stop her right there, saying that he didn't know she's been causing that much trouble. Scarlet ignores him and continues talking calmly, saying that she's met all kinds of people, including those made into slaves and forced to carry out orders, children begging in the streets for their daily bread, nobles eager to break the law to enrich themselves, and a golden-haired lord whose only pleasure in life is provoking her. Julius asks her if she's talking about him, but Scarlet also ignores him and says that ever since she was a child, she's wondered why this world seems designed to make the good-hearted suffer while the wicked prosper. Those who willfully trample on the weak are cunning and can't be punished through normal means. Prime Minister Godwin and his ilk are the epitome of this principle. She was raised in a walled garden and knows little of the world, but there is one thing that she can say for certain. Scarlet suddenly stands up and says that self-serving, greedy nobles are the most satisfying to punch. Julius immediately bursts out laughing, while Leo is disappointed but not surprised about her conclusion. Scarlet sits back down and says that the only person allowed to punch a high-ranking noble is the daughter of a prominent duke like her. Julius admits that she has a point, but Leo can't believe he's agreeing with her. He exclaims that it was one thing when she was a child, but nowadays Nowadays, if she biffs and pows her way through the noble classes, it will ruin their house's reputation. Scarlet mentions how charming the euphemism he used is, clearly amused about it. Julius plays along and scolds him, asking if he couldn't think of a more dignified way to put it. Undeniably frustrated, Leo yells that his choice of words isn't the issue here. Besides, the upper nobility are not the only ones involved in this matter, and there's a chance Godwin is connected to Vanquish. The Vanquish Empire has had border skirmishes with Palestine for the last 300 years. It's a land of might makes right, governed by dragon riders. Scarlet thought they'd established relatively friendly relations since the last peace talks, but there's apparently more to it now. Leo clarifies that they're still looking into the details, but they believe that the Vanquish Aerial Corps, the Red Sky Dragoons, have been in contact with Godwin. In a change of scene, we see Godwin is talking about Scarlet L-Vandymion, and he's clearly not happy about her. He says that her disruption of the second prince's ball has sent all their plans off course. For that reason, he asks a suspicious man with long red hair to get rid of her as soon as possible. Soon after that, Godwin is left alone in his office, and he complains about a common soldier that thinks he can throw his weight around with him. The voice of a woman is heard in the room, asking him not to be so angry. She suddenly points a gun at him, saying that it's a present from goddess Palmia. Godwin doesn't understand what that thing is, and he says that he already has one of her magic items, a golden pendant. The woman decides to show him what the gun can do, and shoots the vase next to him without hesitation. Godwin is immediately startled, and she explains that this present can take the life of his most fearsome enemies. Finally, we see that the woman holding the gun is actually Terraneza, and with an evil smile, she asks Godwin to use the gun without mercy against those who stand in his way. Soon enough, Scarlet heads to the auction with Zatharine, who gives her a mask to disguise herself as everyone else. We hear Julius's previous conversation with Leo in their last meeting before deciding that Scarlet would assist the event. Julius told him that if Vanquish's Red Sky Dragoons really are involved in this, then it's all the more reason to approve Scarlet's undercover presence. Since the auction is so close, they can probably get about 10 of their CIO agents into the event. Naturally, they will be forced to surrender their arms within the auction venue. Those they send in will be skilled combatants, but only if they're armed, and even if they use magic, they will likely struggle to take Godwin into custody. However, Scarlet will remain fully capable, even without weapons, and if she can lay out everyone behind the slave auctions, including Godwin, her latest bloody nickname will likely be the Kingdom's Iron-Fisted Savior. Leo couldn't argue against Julius's arguments, and that's why Scarlet can now infiltrate the slave auction, just as she planned. The palace knights are in place outside, and Leo reminds them that they'll enter once Julius gives the signal. Everything's ready, so he just hopes that his sister can hold to her word of avoiding unnecessary combat. She agreed with a smile, and thanked him for his kindness when he allowed her to go. But no matter what, Leo can't help but feel anxious. He drinks something to try to ease his stomachache, and starts to believe that maybe he should have called it off. In the meantime, the people in the auction talk about the slaves they're in search for today. A woman mentions she heard there will be an avian auctioned off, and she had so hoped to see one. The man on her right says that he's going to look for an elf to give his nephew, and the one next to him explains that he wants to run a show where combat slaves fight for the crowd's amusement. Another man reminds them that the crown jewel of the auction is no doubt the beastkin. Just then, the lights go off, announcing that the event is about to start. A man accidentally bumps against Scarlet and apologizes, but she easily dismisses it, keeping a low profile. After the man leaves, she can't help but think that his voice sounded familiar, but she doesn't have much time to think about it before the auction officially begins. The host thanks everyone for their patience and announces the start of the auction, making the public excited. He introduces the first item of the auction, a rare one-winged avian. Soon enough, people start offering great amounts of gold for the girl, and in the end, she's sold for 100 gold. Scarlet silently walks around the place, and Julius suddenly approaches her, also wearing a mask. She asks him what he's doing there, since he's supposed to be the mission commander, but he simply says that he wanted to check on her. Julius asks her if she was able to find Godwin, and Scarlet just tells him that she has a few ideas of where he might be. As they walk through the place, Julius mentions that the palace knights are ready and waiting for his signal, so if she doesn't hurry, they'll take her target away. Scarlet stops for a moment to suddenly propose a trade, saying that she intends to thoroughly clobber Minister Godwin, so it'd be great if he tells the knights to hold off a while longer. Julius admits that nothing would delight him more, because watching her punch that fool is the reason he joined the undercover team. Still, before agreeing, he asks her what she would give him in exchange, and Scarlet tells him that she'll bow unwavering loyalty to the crown and kingdom for the rest of her life. Julius clarifies that he doesn't want her loyalty to the crown, because he wants her to bow her loyalty to him. Clueless as always, Scarlet tells him that it will come to the same thing, in time, since he's next in line for the throne. Julius insists, saying that he can't wait, so she has to swear it now, and that's his only condition. He leans close and traces her lip with his thumb as he says this, making her a little nervous. Scarlet ends up swearing her loyalty to him, and Julius asks her if he can trust her on that. She pulls away and tells him that it wasn't fair, since he practically coerced her, but Julius reminds her that's nothing new. Scarlet quickly gets irritated once again, confirming once again that Julius truly is a black-hearted prince. Leaving that aside, he asks her where Godwin is, and Scarlet tells him he's on the second floor, overlooking the hall. That only means it's time for the show, so Julius prepares to see a once-in-a-lifetime pummeling spectacle by Scarlet Elvandemion. She tells him that he's free to be in the audience, but she might go off script and slug a certain golden-haired lord as well, so she would advise caution. Without wasting any more time, Scarlet leaves in hopes to meet the one her fists have longed for, their beloved punching bag. In another scene, a young elf girl cries when her mother is taken away to be sold for the auction. Nanaka stops her and asks her to stop struggling because there's no point. Hearing his harsh words, the girl is about to cry, but she hears the prayer of a woman who asks Saint Diana to save them. One of the other slaves asks her to be quiet and reminds her that the saint doesn't care about the prayers of slaves. Feeling hopeless, the elf girl falls to her knees and cries, but Nanaka hugs her to console her and promises that she and her mother will both be safe. His gaze is full of determination and trust, since he's counting on Scarlet to save them and knows that she will. In the meantime, Julius moves forward with Scarlet after she makes sure to put some innocent soldiers to sleep. He praises excellent control, but Scarlet clarifies that his compliments fail to please her when he beat her out for first place on their magic exam. Julius realizes that she still hasn't gotten over that, but Scarlet ignores him and notices that there are some obstacles in the way. A group of men is blocking the way, but Scarlet sees them as simple appetizers before the main dish. She quickly puts on her fingerless gloves to fight, planning to make a party of it. Just then, the host of the auction announces that they'll be enjoying Raldolph's Fifth Symphony, Dance of the Roses, during the intermission. As the orchestra plays in the background, Scarlet deals out blows everywhere with grace, just like in a dance. At the sound of the classic music, she elegantly kicks one of the men with her heel and then punches another, splashing blood all around. Soon enough, she finally makes a proper entrance and meets with her dear punching bag, Godwin Bean Carmine. He's clearly horrified to see her, but Heine isn't happy at all, so he decides that he'll handle the situation for his father. Without waiting for an answer, Heine tries to use lighting magic, wanting to strike her down with it. Despite his efforts, Julius easily stops him with his royal authority, saying that that spell is not permitted. Heine's magic immediately dies down, and he's clearly confused to see it didn't activate. Godwin panics for a moment, instantly recognizing Julius's ring, saying that it's the royal seal, which can cancel spells cast by anyone in the kingdom. The fact that he can use it can only mean that he's the first prince, Julius. Godwin and his men try to nervously deny this, saying that there's no way the prince could be in a place like this. After all, if that truly were him, they would surely be ruined. The men start laughing in denial, but they suddenly quiet down as reality dawns on them. They all equally decide to believe that Julius is an imposter, and Godwin gives the order to bring the beast. A few seconds later, Donovan enters the room, but this time he looks a lot more like a monster. Godwin orders him to kill both Scarlet and the imposter prince, but before Donovan can do anything, Sigurd comes in just in time and makes a cut across his hands. Julius tells him that he's late, and he was already wondering where his bodyguard got off to. Sigurd reminds him that he's the one who lost him so he could go off on his own. Hearing his voice, Scarlet recognizes him as the meat sack she bumped into earlier in the auction. Godwin starts feeling cornered, so he asks everyone to get him, and Sigurd prepares to fight. However, Scarlet suddenly stops him and reminds him that these men are her meat sacks, not his. Sigurd gets a little nervous by the closeness, and Scarlet clarifies that she permits him to fight only that lycanthrope, since the corrupt nobles are for her alone. Despite the blushing mess that he is, Sigurd quickly regains his composure, saying that he has no objections. Just in time for the show, the host of the auction announces that the next piece they'll play during the intermission is Thibon's Third Symphony, The Beautiful Maiden. Once the music starts playing, Scarlet completely beams in delight while spinning a noble around by his foot. She smiles brightly as everyone observes in horror, but the speed and force of her spins soon create a whole tornado inside the room. People start flying around, and the public panics at the scene, immediately stopping the auction. A while later, Leo decides to check on them, since he never got Julius's signal, but when he sees what Scarlet has done, he screams in horror, telling their parents that Scarlet has finally stooped to mass murder. Scarlet calmly clarifies that she didn't kill anyone, and she only used the back of her sword. Leo doesn't believe her in the slightest, saying that she used her fists, and her whole body could be considered the blade. As they speak, Sigurd's fight against Donovan is still going, so the patrons of the auction start escaping. Julius says that they can't hold the knights back any longer, but Scarlet asks him to wait, since she has yet to clobber Minister Godwin. She reminds him that they had an agreement, but Julius reassures her, saying that he'll make sure that Godwin is clobbered by her hand alone. Leo stares at them, saying that he doesn't like the sound of this conversation, but Julius tells him that he has exchanged vows with Scarlet, so he must honor his word to her. Leo's eyes quickly start sparkling with hope, and Scarlet confirms that she has sworn her life to Julius. This makes Leo overflow with joy, since he had already given up on her ever finding that kind of happiness, but now he can't wait to tell their parents. Scarlet mentions that she doesn't understand his reaction, but she's glad to see him so happy. Julius simply stares at them and confirms that they are are both way too clueless. Leaving that aside, he decides to release a spell that signals the knights outside to proceed. Once Leo recovers from the news, he quickly regains his composure, knowing that he has to pursue Godwin before he escapes. Without wasting more time, he uses clairvoyance, the enchanted eye that sees 1,000 leagues. Thanks to this, he manages to see Godwin running away with his son, heading for the roof via the central stairway. Leo closely observes them, but he's surprised when he also sees a dragon approaching the roof. The three of them immediately start running, and Julius confirms that Godwin truly was working with the Red Sky Dragoons. That only means that if he manages to escape to Vanquish, he'll be out of reach for them. Right now, they're in the basement, and the roof is the 5th floor, so even at their fastest, they probably can't catch them in time. Leo is a little confused to see his sister is taking her shoes off, but Scarlet explains that she's doing it to give it her all, of course. She asks him to look after Nanaka and the others, and before waiting for an answer, she uses Acceleration 3 Burst, which allows her to run up the stairs at high speed. Leo panics and tries to stop her, but he knows that it's useless, since Scarlet is using the Blessing of Chronoa Acceleration. By speeding up time around her, she can move faster than a normal human, though triple speed certainly takes a toll on the body. Despite that, thanks to this blessing, Scarlet manages to reach the roof just in time to stop Godwin. Heine runs with his father towards the dragon, and immediately insults the driver. He says that a common soldier like him should show deference to men of high station like them, so he wants him to get down from the dragon and meet them on the ground. The man on the dragon simply calls them human garbage, and then asks his dragon, Rex, to attack them. Just when the dragon whips them with its tail, Scarlet interferes and stops it with one hand, though she steps on Heine in the process. Ignoring the fact that there's a man under her feet, Scarlet politely greets Godwin, saying that she missed him in their time apart. The man on the dragon finally gets down to meet her, recognizing her as Scarlet El Vendemion, the woman he was sent to kill by Godwin. He's clearly impressed that she managed to stop Rex's tail with a single hand, and that makes him believe she's magnificent. The man decides to uncover his face, and as he kneels before Scarlet, he tells her that he's fallen in love with her, so he wants her to marry him. Both Godwin and even the dragon are left in shock, but Scarlet simply refuses and sends him flying with a blow. The dragon immediately tries to defend him, but Scarlet grabs it by its teeth and smashes its head against the concrete. Despite her clear demonstration of violence, the man stands up again, saying that not only she landed a blow on his face, but she also knocked Rex out with one strike, and surprisingly, that just made him fall for her even harder, and he wants her to accept his courtship. Ignoring his excitement, Scarlet simply calls him delusional and gives him another blow on his stomach, asking him to kindly withdraw his proposal. Even as she punches him again, the man can only admire her beautiful blue eyes, saying that they're like a jewelry box containing all the world's gems. His words are interrupted by Scarlet, who gives him a good kick and tells him that it's enough already. However, the man is smitten as ever, saying he's never met a woman who can kick like that, even in Vanquish, which is prized for its warriors. With trembling legs, the man manages to stand up and begs her to come with him. Scarlet admits that he's certainly very persistent, but she asks him if he's sure that it's her who he should be paying attention to. After all, she assumed that he came here to slay the incompetent Godwin. Godwin has no idea of what she's talking about, but the man smiles, knowing that she caught him. Just then, Scarlet reveals that he's actually the first prince of the Vanquish Empire, Alflame Rare Vanquish. The prince confirms this and admits that he came here to kill Godwin and his son. Not happy about this information, Godwin insults him, saying that he gave him all that information, so he can't just cut him loose. After all, he promised to make him a minister in Vanquish. Alflame reminds him that he already sold out one kingdom, so it's ridiculous for him to think that he'd really trust him with the fate of another. Godwin can't argue against that, so Alflame points his weapon towards him and asks him to graciously accept his traitor's death. Just as his lance is about to end Godwin once and for all, Scarlet interferes again, completely destroying the lance with a kick as she tells the prince that he won't deny her her meat. Alflame mentions that it's hardly ladylike to show her legs like that, but that makes him like her even more. He suddenly grabs Scarlet's leg as he says this, and she tells him that it's hardly gentlemanly to seize a lady's leg. Alflame is charmed by her smile and asks her if she decided to accept his love. Scarlet mentions that he seems to hold his endurance in high esteem, and Alflame confirms this. He explains that metallization, the blessing gifted to him by the god of steel, Meteor, gives him an invulnerable body that can withstand any physical attack. Alflame recognizes that she has a blessing as well, but he clarifies that she can't defeat him with bare-fisted blows, so it's best if she steps back. Before he can do anything, Scarlet tells him that she actually knows a way to defeat him. Suddenly, she grabs him by the back of his neck and hits his face with her knee. Alflame is taken off guard by the stand-up grappling, and as his face is hit repeatedly, he mentions that's a primitive and effective way of dealing damage. Scarlet thanks him for the compliment, and once she's done with her hits, Alflame is surprised to notice he's dizzy. Just then, he realizes that Scarlet's goal was to give him a concussion to refrain him from fighting. Alflame tells her that this kingdom of weaklings is unworthy of her, so he definitely wants her to go with him. Tired of the same request over and over again, Scarlet suddenly picks him up and decides to use acceleration to send him back to his kingdom. Finally, she has the time to properly address Godwin, though the man panics and desperately tries to save himself with words. Godwin apologizes for trying to kill her and for using Terraneza to break up her engagement to Prince Kyle. Scarlet clarifies clarifies that she had no idea of that, and Godwin realizes that he messed up. Scarlet finally understands that Terraneza had his aid, which means he instigated her meeting with Kyle, and he's the reason she was humiliated at the ball. Godwin panics and clarifies that he just went along with her plan, but Scarlet doesn't look happy at all. Completely terrified, he tries to save himself and tells her that he can give her useful information. Godwin confesses that he knows who Terraneza really is, and she's not actually from this world. She was brought here and reincarnated from another world by the power of a goddess.